on, pal?
What's going on, fellas?
What's up, boys?
Yo, the Beef stew in the house, baby.
Yo, the wolf pack is back together once again. all the way from the dirty Jers and Michigan. Here we are.
What a time to be alive.
The Dirty D.
Thank you guys for having me on the show. I've watched all the episodes, and I think it's very good what you guys are doing. And I appreciate you guys having me on, and I'm thankful for the people who are watching, taking the time out of their day. So
thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Tonight's a special episode. We've got Rich here with us, who came in from Colorado on a little bit of a leave break and took the 3-hour trip from Baltimore to come up, decided to have a live show and kick it with the three amigos. So tonight, I just want to give, we're going to go through our shout outs, and then we're going to kind of just jump right into it and kind of get a little bit of a background around that he's been going through with his service and how he got to where he's at. And I look forward to it. Matt?
Yeah, it's going to be awesome, man. I've been looking forward to this one for quite some time. We've had it in the works. We told Rich no matter what, when, and where he wants to do it, we want him on. So I'm glad it's finally here.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I've watched all the episodes. I've told some people about you guys, and I just think it's really great what you guys are doing. And, you know, I've been looking forward ever since you extended the invite to coming on. And I can tell you that the audience is in for a good show.
So with that being said, everybody, welcome to Disarranged 1775. I'm your host, Andrew Turner. I'm accompanied with Richard Stewart and my co-host over in Michigan, Matthew Gardner. Episode 9. Can't believe we've already made it. I want to give a shout out to our number one fan, Bryson Pajak. He's out there watching right now. Big fan. And also, just live real quick, I want to give a shout out to Ricardo Broderick.
Yes,
he's in the house. I see him in the comments. Now you better get active in the. What is he, a gunny?
Master Sergeant, soon to be Master Sergeant retired.
That's right.
In a few more weeks, retired.
That's right. Well, thank you. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I really, really look forward to tonight. And with that being said, how long were you a veteran? 8 years?
Yeah, so I was out for 8 years, which is, of all the prior service people that I have met in the Army, that is one of the longest gaps that I've seen. I mean, when 8 years, you are officially transitioned into civilian life.
Right.
So that was 8 years.
Yes. Go ahead, Turner.
No, go ahead, Matt. I was just looking down.
Yeah, so, Stu, I wanted to talk a little bit about, we've known each other for how long? The three of them?
We met late 2008, early 2009.
Yeah, because we were just talking about our picture from Afghanistan and how it looks like, one of those pictures you dig up out of your grandpa's old cabinet or something like that, man. It just, time has flown by. You and Turner were never kids, like some of the other Marines. You were a couple years older.
Yeah, we were like 20, 23.
Yeah, so Andrew's about 4 months older than I am. So by the time that we had graduated basic, we were 21 and we were 22. I remember I turned 22 in MCT. So by the time that we showed up as, privates, PFCs in the fleet, we were already 22.
Yeah.
It was a completely different world. And I remember when we first kind of got together, like when Rich and I really first started kicking it, we knew of each other in obviously boot camp. We had seen each other, and in MOS school through passing, had a couple beers together, but never really kicked it all that much. And then I get down to Camp Lejeune, and my credit card's not working. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And it's like they told us, they're like, hey, listen, like it's going to be like $100 trip to get to base. And so like I'm sitting here stressed out that I'm not gonna be able to check into Lejeune. Here comes Rich. He's like, saves the day. He's like, hey man, just hop in with me. And then later that night we went and we drank East Coast beers after being in Oklahoma for X amount of months was what, 3% out there?
Yeah. So if you remember back then, and I don't think it's this way anymore, Oklahoma had the alcohol laws where the beers were actually diluted and they were lesser volume.
Really? I never knew that.
We showed up and we went to the bowling alley at Camp Lejeune right across from the New Joint Center and just got hammered. And, the rest is history. I mean, and when you put it that way, our relationship has been pretty consistent like that ever since. He's in a double. I come along the bailing out, and then the drunken night at the end of it all. And, that pretty much sums up the whole thing.
Yo, D, do you remember when you met the two of us?
I remember meeting you more, of course, because you're like an M80 that goes off in the middle of a fucking empty factory. You know what I mean? Yeah. Stewart, I just remember the way. Well, he was next to you, but I remember the way he carried himself was always, he was astute. He was professional.
A little more poised.
Yeah, very poised. Yeah. He didn't say much to us when we first, the headquarters guys, because I know the guns guys were like, yo, fuck these guys. We've been training it for a long time. And these pogues are going to fucking ruin our deployment.
True to form, right?
Right. So I knew that in my head. So I just shut up and
Well, but, understanding, like, I guess for like our audience, understanding that 4 years in the Marine Corps is probably, it's a solid 10 years of a fast-paced life. I would imagine.
So much.
So I think what's really fascinating as getting to our 8-year mark, I remember it was around the now tell me if I'm wrong, it was around the 6-year mark, I think, is when I got a call and Rich was like, hey, I'm coming down to Baltimore. And I'm like, okay, yeah, dude. Came down and he was like, I'm thinking about doing this again. Mm-hmm. And I remember I respected him so much because he came down and like being his battle buddy, I was like, we had a one-on-one conversation. It was awesome. And I remember thinking like, holy shit, he's serious. Mm-hmm. And he really worked towards every goal and every aspect of getting back into the military. So I have to ask, I think a lot of our guests that are tuned in right now would like to know is like, what led you after this much time, right, after a long Marine Corps service, mm-hmm, experiencing veteran life and civilian life again, us growing our friendship out of there with all our other brothers, and then just kind of decide to go back in?
Well, there was a lot of things. I think when I went out, I stayed very active in the veteran community. I joined the American Legion. I tried to really stay active, and involved with veterans. Obviously, every November we do the Cookies Tavern event in Philadelphia.
Shout out,
which is really turned into a nice reunion for the guys that we served with, and it's like our Christmas day every year. But I was out, and when I got out, I went to school, got my bachelor's degree in 3 years, and I got to the point where I had always known, I'd always felt that I just was not done serving, that my service was not complete. And I actually have to give a lot of credit to my wife because she one day, it was a Sunday dinner, and she said, you should really think about going back in. And I had not thought about it at that point because, Matt, as you know, you were married when you were in. It's very, very difficult on spouses. And, I just hadn't even thought about it. That is what that was the initial spark.
Right.
And I kept looking into it more and more. And when it came down to it, I said, if I don't I have this window, okay? Because at that point I was over 30, and I said, I have this window and it's closing, but it's still open. If I take it and let's say it doesn't work out how I wanted it to or not favorably, at least I'll know that I tried and gave it a chance. But if I don't, I'll spend the rest of my life,
right,
in all honesty, pissed off and wondering what it could have been. And that's the truth about when you're assessing risks in situations like that, is that you will look back with regret that you did not take that shot. And so I decided that's it. I'm going to take the shot. When I saw the recruiters, that was a very long process, but eventually it worked out. And it has absolutely been the right decision. So after 8 years of being out, that's what brought me back, to where I'm at now.
So you're a Marine Corps veteran, you're a combat veteran, right? You've been through all kinds of bullshit, obviously, with the Marine Corps service. You know the deal, the ins and outs and all that stuff.
Right.
When they told you had to go to training day to achieve this goal, what was the process that went in your mind? Because that would have, I would have popped smoke.
There was certainly an oh shit moment there. And what I would tell anybody who's listening and thinking about, taking risks and assessing, their goals and how to get there is going to be oh shit moments. There's going to be big bumps on the road. And when I first went in and I was talking to the Army recruiters, I had thought that, okay, I had to do a little bit of time. If you remember back in the day when we were in, there's 2 wars going on. So if guys had gotten out and they wanted to come back in, especially if they were jumping to a different branch, regardless of their break in service, they kind of came in. They used to do a thing where they came in, they had a 1-month train up period where there was like,
right.
Hey, okay, you came over from the Navy, you came over from the Marines.
Here's a crash.
You're joining the Army, Air Force, whatever. Here's your uniform. Here's a crash course. It's basically the rank structure, the ins and outs. You already know what you're doing. We're going to make sure that you haven't had it all. And, that's it. When they told me, they were like, well, it was a new policy. It had only been around for 3 years. Some lieutenant in Washington had to beef up his resume, and he said, hey, I'm going to change this. And they did. And they told me, yeah, you got to start over day one. That the Army just went from the 14-week OSIT, 1 station unit training cycle, which is basic training and your MOS training, to a 22-week cycle. Well, that's 6 months. That's time to be away. My wife was in her 2nd trimester with a child. That was a big oh shit moment. But in the end, I said, you can't let you prepared for 4 oh shit moments, and now you can't let something like that, divert your attention and take you away from what it is you're trying to accomplish in the end.
Right. So how was it when you first got there? What was your thought process like when you first showed up? You got I don't know where you went to training. What was it?
Fort Benning, Georgia.
Georgia, right?
At Fort Benning.
Yep.
Tell us some of the thoughts that were going through your mind.
So, it was funny when I had to do the whole MEPS thing all over again. And
the duck walk.
I had to do the duck walk, put on the boxers. And the funny thing is, I'm with all these kids who are like, what the fuck are we doing? And I'm like, guys, I've been through this before. Just shut
right,
up.
Yeah.
I literally the whole thing, duck walk. Remember the crazy MEPS doctor who's like 110 years old and he went through that.
He wants to see you in private in his office.
100%. Bend down, grab the toes. Now, it was
the same guy from when
I'm pretty sure it was the same
Probably.
guy. He's actually been dead for 10 years. They just roll him out there, thing and pull puppet strings. But I went through that whole process again, and at Fort Hamilton in Brooklyn, New York.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And so then when I get down to the Atlanta airport where they're going to bus us from, Atlanta to Fort Benning. And it's not like in the Marines where you just roll up the parasite. Like we get there and I see these drill sergeants at the airport. And
you didn't have your head down?
So my check-in time was like,
excuse me, guys.
They were like, you have to report to them by 2000. And I got there like 1830. And I see these guys and and I was like, oh, what the fuck am I doing? Like what am I doing? And I had heard different stories about prior service and this and that and what it was. I roll in at 20, quarter of 15 minutes prior, right? I roll in, and I'm not kidding. My first orders in the Army, and it's probably because I'm an old bastard, but the guy looks at me and he goes, "Are you prior service?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Leave your bags over here. One of these fucking boots is going to take it. All the prior service guys are over there." And there was about 20, 25 prior service guys all standing isolated in their own spot, not getting fucked with.
Nice.
And I go over there and I just start shooting up at them. We're like, and we all said the same thing. We were like, we kind of thought there was a chance we might see my service guys here, but not like this. And then one of the drill sergeants comes over to us and he says, "Who here was a Marine?" He's former 0351 in the Marine Corps. Now I'm doing this. You guys are going to be in for a good time. Don't worry about it. All right, let these fucking boots take your shit. You'll be okay. So,
you call him a pogue?
Yeah. One of the funniest things. And then, he was telling us about when he joined, and he joined like 3 years after I got, or like a year or two after I got out. And I'm like, damn,
wow.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I mean, really aging ourselves then.
Go. So now you're in it, right? You go through your. Did they have in the Marine Corps where they had your training week or your acceptance week where kind of things are kind of just a little easy? They teach you how to march. You look like a moron running around.
Yeah. So so when I first got there, they separate the prior service guys from the brand new recruits, right? And I get there and there was 117 prior service guys who were in their own barracks waiting to pick up. The drills did not mess with us. They came in right away and they're like, what's expected of you. That standard is there. Hold it or get treated like one of them. Simple as that. And we did. There was never any problems. Right. It was very fascinating seeing the different backgrounds of these guys. This guy was an E6 in the Air Force and he was coming to do that. I was, an infantryman in the Marines and was coming, had a 2-year break in service and was coming back in to go try out for the Rangers, the Green Berets.
Right.
We all had very, very different backgrounds, and it was unique talking to them. But the whole, the dental, the shots, and all that, the drills gave us our paperwork, and they would tell us where to go, and we would just go on our own and do it for the first week. And we're walking by these brand new recruits who are just getting smoked. I mean, all they're doing is just getting beat the whole time.
They need it.
And they need it. Yeah. And of course we're walking by talking shit like, yeah, fuck you. It was just great. But, so that first week we went and did it on our own.
All right. That's pretty cool. So now fast forward. Now you're in your first unit.
Yeah.
You're 2 years. So this is the 2 years this month.
So yeah, last week
was your
on the
2-year mark.
14th was my 2-year mark in the Army.
Congratulations.
6 years total now.
I'll
cheers to that. We're drinking for the sponsors out there, Breckenridge Bourbon out of Colorado. So.
Stu, well, before you get to the unit, would you mind talking about? I know that. Correct me if I'm wrong. You had the birth of a child, correct?
Well, no, that happened in the thick of things.
While you're already there, okay.
Right. At this point, when I left, my wife, like I said, was at the later part of the second trimester, going into the third, right? And now keep in mind, January 14th, 2020. Yep. Okay. Nobody, if you say COVID-19, people would be like, "What the fuck is that?" Yeah. Nobody was talking about it. So I get there and I get to my unit, Alpha 219. Shout out, Alpha 219. And right away, I get with the drills and I tell them, "Hey, my wife is pregnant. This is the due date. What can they do?" And they were incredible to work with. They were very respectful of all the prior service people because they understood that we had chewed some of the same dirt as them. That we were not your basic recruit or private. And they told me, they were like, "We're going to take this up to the commanding officer." And the due date, at that time was at the very beginning of April. My daughter ended up being born on April 14th, but they said, "We will get you sent home for 2 weeks." Okay. They showed me the training schedule and everything. And it was funny because the CO, who was a good man, but he was a West Pointer, God bless him. So he was very by the book. he I was with him in all the drills, and he said, well, for one of the weeks, the second week that you'll be gone, that's actually the 249 SAW week, where we're going to be doing the 249 that whole week. And, that's going to be a tough one for you to miss. And I just said, sir, respectfully, I was a SAW gunner in Afghanistan back in 2009.
So yeah,
I could
probably take that
keep
roll it up real tight.
Yeah.
What did he say?
He didn't say a word. He just Roger that, and it was. He said, "Well, if you feel good doing it, then that's fine."
Dude, that's such a huge flex. I was a SAW gunner in Afghanistan in 2000.
Yeah, right.
One of the things that actually helped my cause for that was that they had given out 240s and 249s, and I had already taught the entire platoon how to, disass, how to take the weapon apart, clean it, put it back together, functions check, everything. So they saw that and they were like, yeah, he's good on this, Yeah. And then, of course, COVID came around. They started talking about that in February. And then in March, it had made its way down to Atlanta, the first case. And I knew when that happened that I was shit out of luck. And they called me in and they were very respectful. COVID started spreading and they were like, we're sorry to tell you this, but we're not going to be able to send you home. And I said, listen, I knew that was coming. It's nothing personal.
Right.
It's a real blow, but it is what it is. Fast forward a little bit. My wife delivered on April 14th and they pulled me out. We were doing land nav. They pulled me out of the woods and they let me FaceTime with her. I FaceTime for a few hours and actually, saw my daughter come into the world. It was a great moment. And, so they were very, and they left, they gave me a room all to myself. They were very respectful. So
if you don't mind telling us, what were some of the conversations? What was some of the thought process, between you and your wife, and when you had to tell her about, hey, I can't make it. I'm sure. I mean, she's a smart gal. I'm sure she saw the train coming too.
Yeah. So it was interesting. I think in any other situation, if the rug had been pulled out from under you like that, you probably, nobody would be happy. All of a sudden, global pandemic coming, and I think the whole world, everybody realized. I mean, you remember back then, March 2020, people were scared to go outside.
Yeah.
People were scared to touch doorknobs that somebody had touched 20 minutes before.
Yeah, we were wearing gloves and pumping.
I was raw dogging. Right. I was raw dogging at the gas station. So.
Yeah, I think at that point, the conversation shifted from, okay, it is what it is. Like, we understand that, to, well, now we have to make sure that you stay safe because you're 8-9 months pregnant.
Right.
And we got this brand new virus that nobody knows about. So
Matt, I don't think I've told you this part of Richie's beautiful day with his family. A lot of people out there know that I'm a bull in a china shop. So that day, I had no idea what was going on. I'm driving to Western Maryland, and I know that Rich has family that has a restaurant out in Western Maryland. I was going out for work to pick up my computer, and I'm driving along. I'm like, oh, perfect time. I've got like an hour drive. I can call, check in on Miss Stu, see what's going on. And so I picked the phone up. It's like 9-ish, 9:30-ish in the morning. Pick the phone up. She answers the phone and she's hysterically crying. She's like, Richie? And I'm like, what? I'm like, no, it's my key. It's fucking Turner. And she's like, oh my God, Turner, click. And I'm like,
yeah, that's the same reaction I have.
And I'm like, man, I was like, I know you're pregnant, but like, what the hell is that all about? And then I come an hour and a half, 2 hours later, I get word that she was actually in labor, and she thought that it was Richie calling in. And because he was calling in from the field from an unknown number, and she turned up. And so,
well, the one little funny thing about that was I had told her with the instructions that I was given, and you know how miscommunication happens sometimes, particularly in the service. I was told, hey, when it she goes in the labor and send a Red Cross message. She contacts the Red Cross and they say, ma'am, until that baby's born, there's nothing we can do.
Right.
Okay. And she's like, fuck, And so literally a week before she gave birth, I told her, I said, hey, this is my company number, and here's a battalion office number. If for some reason the Red Cross is giving you trouble or whatever, call them. And so she was calling like early. And, finally somebody got in the office and, she told them and they said, we'll inform them right away. And they did. They got me. They gave me my own little private area to talk to her and FaceTime, and
nice.
Worked out great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And then they did that in the Marine Corps for people too, right? Did they, if it was able to be,
if you had an emergency or anything like that going on, I think they would have done. They probably wouldn't have been as pleasant, right. But yeah.
Now let's change paces a little bit. So now all of a sudden, now you're a father. Mm-hmm. You're a year into your service in the Army, second enlistment, with an 8-year gap. Can you walk through some of the differences that you see and have seen amongst each branch? Good or bad, just what you see in your situation.
Mm-hmm. Well, the Army, obviously, the Marine Corps is the few, the proud. It's the smallest branch by far, and the Army, of course, the biggest branch. What is interesting is there's definitely different. I like being bilingual now. I speak Army and I speak Marines.
That's cool.
Which is cool until you're talking to one of the other guys, because my Army buddies give me a ton of shit for being a Marine. And then I see my Marine buddies and they're like, hey, fucking who, So, that, but it's all in good fun. There are so many Marines now in the Army that makes it easier in the sense of, you get there and you'll meet guys who were in the Marine Corps, and they kind of help you to learn the language, learn the way. There's a lot of differences. There's a lot of similarities in the sense of the way we do things, both the branches. And at the same time, there's a lot of differences, big and small. The respect, the chain of command, all that discipline, it's there. Marine Corps obviously focuses much more on every little thing, attention to detail. That's what makes the warrior. I really like to consider the Marine Corps like the Cheyenne dog soldier, in the sense that it is a warrior society within a warrior society.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, you've got there's different echelons and tiers of that, in the Army, in the Marine Corps, it's every Marine is a rifleman. And that is true. You could have a supply guy or a cook who's all of a sudden, a machine gunner overseas, and he is expected to carry out that duty.
Without a doubt.
There's no excuses. In the Army, you're like the infantry, they really try to separate themselves from most of the other, MOSs in the Army. The Marine Corps is very big on, you're a Marine and that's it. Doesn't matter whether East Coast, West Coast, what unit kind of thing. The Army is very specific about their units. So, for example, the Marine Corps, we learn all about the history of the Marine Corps.
Day one.
Everybody knows Chesty Puller, Smedley Butler. Rarely Dan can Daly. You find people, Dan Daly. Rarely can you find people who will tell you, oh, Dan with this unit in the Box Rebellion doing this.
Right.
In the Army, if you're in the 82nd Airborne, you care about the history of the 82nd Airborne, and everybody else you don't really care about, until there. You wind up in the 101st, you wind up in the 160th.
It's unit centric.
Very much unit centric, which is not the cultural case in the Marine Corps. The Marines.
That's interesting.
It's but so it's interesting. I mean, but a lot of the training, like, we do our motor pool Mondays, all that stuff. A lot of that was easy to jump right into. So, I could go on for hours as to all the similarities and differences, and I won't do that. But coming in from a different branch, it was easy to transition, but it was hard to not forget, but become bilingual and learn.
There it is.
So I'm curious. This is a two-parter. Number one, I'm very curious to what the Army would have to make. What would they be making fun of the Marine Corps
Yeah.
That's my first question, and then number two, I am very curious the differences in how you talk to each other.
Well, in terms of what they make fun of us for, they'll call us, the we're with the Navy, this and that, and and I'm like, yeah, but the Navy's like our Uber drivers, and they fucking shit up, and they just drive us,
That's what I'm talking
wherever.
about.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I'm going to get to John Gray's question in just a second, because that's a great question. Mostly it's just because they've had to adapt to having so many Marines in now. They got to find a way to talk shit.
Okay. So it's make-believe stuff.
Well, to an extent, it's what I will tell you is this. I'll say this. The Army has got tremendous respect for the Marines. In the Marines, we don't have a lot of respect for the Army. And what I will tell you is when I joined the Army, when I got into the line, that's,
right.
Our version of the fleet, what I realized is these guys are not as nasty as we think they are. These guys, they deserve more credit than we give them, because they still wake up every day. They go out, they train real hard. They have high standards, and they're trying to get up every day and get after it.
So that kind of leads me into another type of question that when we talked about the different branches years ago, let's say, we're year 6 out, and you had thought about the Air Force, you had thought of you had thought about the Army, you thought about the Marine Corps. You did it kind of by the book, and looking back on hindsight 2020, and you gave every branch an opportunity for you to sit with it and feel what was right in your gut. How is the dynamic of the soldiers that you're training with now? You've got a little bit of an age gap with some of the soldiers, I would imagine, that are underneath you that you're training. Now we're going to take into a whole different generation of soldier. Is there a I don't know how you really want to put it. Is there how are their characters compared to see? What I'm trying to say is we see that, like we've said in past episodes, the softness of society. Things are getting softer out here. Yeah. Me being 10 years plus out, I'm thinking, okay, well, that has to translate into the military.
Sure.
How does that translate into the military?
Yeah, so that's a great question. First, let me just say to John Gray's question, the Marine Corps is always, his question is, do you think the shift of Marines to Army is a new thing? And if so, why? It is fairly new, but by fairly new, I mean like last 15 years type thing. Marines are always downsizing. And so what you'll have guys who will get out, and they'll kind of, with me, they're like, you know what? I kind of miss being in the military. I am curious about going back in. And when they go see the Marine recruiter, as Greg saying, Val, people like that, they know like it is to go back in on active duty. The Marines will tell you, yeah, we'll gladly take you, but it's only in the reserves. And if you want to go active duty, then you go see the Army, and they're like, yeah, we'll take you. You keep your rank. You do this, we'll do that. Whatever you want, we'll absolutely take you. Your time and service transfers over, everything. So they make it, so it's easy if that's what you're looking for to join the Army from the Marines. Now, the character. That was probably my most pleasant surprise joining the Army. Was, I remember in the days leading up to leaving for Fort Benning, I said, I was thinking about the different guys who were out there, and
because you already had firsthand knowledge, experience of literally every aspect of being in the military,
right? And I thought about these guys who were getting ready to go through what I went through in 2008, and they were, it was the unknown for them. Whereas for me, I knew what I was getting into. And what I will tell you is that I had thought to myself, the reputation of millennials and young people these days, what is it going to be like? Because if you joined when we joined, if you put each person in a room and you said, well, why'd you do it? They would all tell you the same thing.
Yeah.
They say 9/11.
9/11 had a huge thing in everybody's part.
It didn't matter where you were from.
100%.
It did not matter where you were from. You know, I remember talking to Brandon Harwood from our unit, and he was Arkansas, and I remember for me, I'd never been to Manhattan. I had never been to the World Trade Center, but I just knew it was on our soil, and that was good enough for me to go in there and say, you know what, I want to get the guys who did this. Now, guys who weren't even alive, who are joining, who weren't alive for 9/11, and I wondered what that was going to be like. And what I will tell you is I was so pleasantly surprised.
Really?
I couldn't believe the quality and the character of the people that I met at Fort Benning, 18, 19, 20-year-olds who loved to read about world history, who loved to read about American history, you know, who loved our country, who were willing to, you know, write that blank check with their lives saying, I'll go out and fight that fight if my country needs me. And many of these guys were, you know, it was the same incredible backgrounds thing. I remember a guy in my platoon, his name was Weaver, and good old boy from Mississippi. Except now he was a little bit older. He was, I think, 23 at the time, but he, you know, big country accent, Mississippi kid.
Right.
He joined to go join the Special Forces, 18X contract to go be a Green Beret. And, you know, you might not think, talking to that kid, if you didn't know anything about him, you might not think anything of him. He had a biochemical engineering degree from the University of Mississippi.
It's amazing.
So he was not desperate, you know, when he joined.
Right.
He joined, I want to go kick some ass, make myself better,
Do my part.
and do my part.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe the character of all those people. It was truly incredible, and it was a very pleasant surprise, you know, to see the military is still bringing top that our country has to offer, and that these are people who love their country, and they've grown up in a time of technology, you know, like you know, that we did not have.
Right.
And yet they read books, they work hard, they strive, you know, for excellence, and you know, they are selfless with their sacrifice.
It makes me feel better as a civilian, as a veteran, to know that, you know, that trend isn't necessarily taking over the military. I'm sure there's different parts of it that it's always, you know, that's the pendulum of the military, which will always swing. We've talked about this 100 times.
Absolutely. I was incredibly impressed with it. And by the way, to Major Callahan, who I know was one of your previous guests,
Shout out.
He was just asking a question. Can the guests see what that?
Yeah, they can see it.
So they can see that. So, sir, to your question, of course, that training set me up for success. And actually, I will say there wasn't even a percentage where it held me back. Not even a percentage. So it's a good question, but no, catapulted me, put me head, shoulders above, you know, others. You know, it definitely set
right out the gate too. Even even in boot camp, they were running drills, right?
I mean, to be honest, like I said, the only setback was that I had to now be bilingual. I knew one language and had to translate it to another language. And that's a very minor step to have to, you know.
Right. Yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Well, but then you had just turned. So 2 years ago, that puts you at 30.
I was 33 when I went to
33
basic.
years old, man. So man, that's getting up to the Gardner enlistment, man. Like
yeah, well, all those old man jokes that we used to tell you about, my drills were doing that to me because they were all younger than me. So, you know, they're like, all right, old man, get up there and bang out those leg tucks. So I had to bring my A game for sure.
What were you thinking about when all this must have, you obviously thought about every aspect of this before you went and did it all. What, with all the sacrifices, what were you looking at towards the end? Was there an end game? Was there a vision that you had that you kept looking at, or?
Mm-hmm. So, you know, what I would tell everybody who's watching is this kind of, it goes to the leap of faith. My end game was to be back on active duty.
Okay.
Because I missed it, I enjoyed it, and I wanted to do it again. The second or third day that I was in basic for the Army, they had us out on the parade deck, and Southwest Georgia, the parade deck in the military, hot as hell.
All right.
And this is how you execute a left face. This is how you execute a right face. And I remember in that moment saying, I got 6 months of this fucking shit. And my wife is pregnant at home. And, this is a long haul.
Yep.
And you have those, moments, right, where you're really thinking, did I do the right thing? Is this what I want? You have moments of doubt. And I centered myself and I said, of course, this is what you want. This is a very minor thing. It's the end game. And the end game was, as I just said, being back on active duty, that lifestyle, serving the country. This is in X amount of months from now, you shouldn't care about this moment. This is a hiccup.
Right.
And now here we are. I'm sitting here talking about 2 years later.
Right.
It didn't mean shit, but in that moment, it seemed like a kick in the gut. And that was really, now simultaneously, I had a guy, my best friend from my basic training platoon, was a kid named Chris Lyons. And Chris was a son of Irish immigrants. He grew up on a horse farm in Kentucky. His dad was a horse breeder. He would breed horses. His goal was to breed a Derby-winning horse one day. And Chris had served in the Navy. He was an aviation mechanic. And he worked on helicopters. And he had gotten accepted to BUDS to go, attempt to become a Navy SEAL. And just before Hell Week, he really badly hurt his knee. And in BUDS, you have to quit. And he said, they won't pull you out unless you're literally medically dying. You have to tap out. And what you do is, you walk across the platform there, you take your helmet off, you put it down the line, and you ring the bell, and that signals that you tap out.
You're done, yeah.
He said it was the lowest moment of his life. So he gets back to his unit, he's working, and his contract was getting ready to end, and they said, hey, man, you can re-enlist, and you have to do 1.5 years with the unit. And then at that point, you can reapply to BUDS. And if they take you, maybe they will, maybe they won't. It all depends. A lot of factors. So he got out, and he was out for, I think it was about 2 years. And he realized that his service was not done. He applied to come back in, 18X contract to go be a Green Beret.
Okay.
And I remember when we would be doing things, we'd be getting smoked. We'd be training hard. Marine Corps equivalent of the quarterdeck.
Right.
I'd be sitting there doing it and just saying, hey, this is just part of the drill. You got to get through it. But he was right next to me all the time. And he's doing push-ups to the point where he's like, I want to do more than I did last time. I want to do more than all these other guys here. And he was 30 years old at the time.
Nice.
We'd be, going from the pussy position to the crunch position. And he'd be the first, try to be the fastest one switching the positions.
That's awesome.
And it was, he explained, he's like, this is my 6 months to get ready for this Green Beret selection. And long story short, he ended up getting selected. And he is in the pipeline now. He's wearing the Green Beret, and he's in the pipeline right now, finishing all their training. They do language training, regional training, stuff like that. And he's going through that right now, whooping it on.
It's awesome.
Really, I looked at that as kind of, that was a lot of influence, because here I am. My end game is, hey, just get into the big Army. This basic training is just temporary.
Yep.
His was be the best damn guy right here, right now, so that I can be ready for what I'm about to go through. He had his end game in mind, and I had mine.
Yeah. So has it been an easy? I mean, you mentioned that your wife, she wasn't necessarily in the Marine Corps with you. So I mean, you guys went together. It was at the tail end, right?
My last 6 months in is when we started dating. Yeah.
That's when I couldn't find them anywhere.
Yeah, I remember meeting her at the ball, and then shortly after that, you got out, right?
I would just see beady eyes in the car in the parking lot, in the window, the fogged windows, because they were talking on the phone the whole time. I'm just trying to find my friend.
So this guy. Has it been? It doesn't change, Stu, right?
Yeah, never.
Has it been an easy transition? Does she enjoy it? Do you guys? Has she embraced the lifestyle? You have.
Yeah, so the dice rolled in our favor. So I did not have a say they were going to send me. Okay. And I go in there and they're like, well, where do you want to go? And I had a few fine, but I just said, man, it doesn't matter. Just tell me. And he said, you're going to Fort Carson, Colorado. And I said, oh, Jesus, thank you. Because everybody that I knew who was in the Army, they said Fort Carson is the most desirable base in terms of just living. The area is great, and it is. It's just fantastic. And I had always wanted to go out west. I was an East Coast guy, and I just wanted to go out west, to have no tendency and have the Army pay for it. I was thrilled about. So we've enjoyed very much, being out there. It's a whole new experience. She has done a really terrific job with, going, leap of faith. Yeah. Taking, everything and, going out there, taking a risk, and it has paid off. When we bought our house, she had not even been to the state of Colorado. Wow. She put it all on me. I walked through with the camera being like, hey, here's this and here's that and whatnot. By the time that we signed on that line, she still hadn't been out there. Yeah. And
what an adventure.
It's that leap of faith that, I'm going to take a risk and, the high reward, and it's paid off for all of us. So
I think it's such a tremendous thing for her to embrace your dream, right? And for her to go through what she had to go through, being pregnant and starting over and kind of the unknown. And
I think we talked about it a little bit when you had made the decision. She was like, if he's not going to be happy pursuing his dreams, like, how are we going to create a relationship and move forward? Like that was the basis of what he was talking about. And I think
that's a rare woman. So that's fantastic.
So shout out Katie, Stu.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, if she had, it goes back to that Sunday dinner thing. If she hadn't planted that seed, even though it was something I was always thinking about, if she hadn't, said, hey, I know this is something you'd be happy doing, why don't you do it? I wouldn't have even considered it.
Well, it's the good woman, like it reminds me of Rocky 5. Like he wants to fight Drago, right?
That's Rocky 4.
Or 4, when Adrian tells him, like, fine, like, go get him or whatever. Like, then that was it, man. The ropes were off. He was
Adrian. Yeah.
So as soon as she told you, like, hey, go do this, you're like, that's it.
Yeah, pretty much.
You start PTing right there. Go get the silver.
Yeah. You talk about differences. In the two branches in the Marine Corps, they call it silkies. In the Army, it's Ranger panties. But they're the same thing, except in the Army they're black, and the Marine Corps they're green.
Well, if you're a motivated Marine, you have both colors and all sizes. So.
Yeah, or if you're just a motivated American, you could have both too. So that's what
So tell us where you're at now. Tell us what the future holds, what the plans are.
So right now I'm with 4th Battalion, 9th Infantry Regiment, 4th Infantry Division.
Yo, baddest unit on the planet.
Actually, yeah, I'm rocking it right now. I got the
show them out.
First Striker Brigade, Raider Brigade, and
Cannons to Strikers, huh?
Striker, yeah.
Damn, man.
Yeah. But I'm like I said, I just hit my 2-year mark in the Army, and it's going very well. It's really terrific is doing the training. There is so much good training that you get. And sometimes it's funny. Maybe it's being older, but I found myself, having these moments where I say, as much as this might be a pain in the ass when you hear, when the word comes down, oh, we're getting ready to go do this training or that. You're like, oh, fucking A, Then you get in the middle of it and you're like, man, you're lucky to be able to do it. And there's going to be a day where you're not doing it anymore, which I've had being out. And you'll say you miss it. I remember I had the day my daughter was born, I actually went back out and did the nighttime land navigation course. And I was walking and I couldn't find my point. And I looked up and I was just in this heavily vegetated area. So it was blocking out the moon and everything. And I was like, okay, well, I know my pace count's good, whatnot. What I need to do is I just got to reset myself. And I bent down and I took a knee and I closed my eyes and I was singing in my head, "Can't You See" by the Marshall Tucker Band. I have no idea that song popped up in my head, but it did. And I completely zoned out for about 1 minute. Then I just stopped, I opened my eyes, and I was like, okay, well, I know that's west. This is where I'm at. And it's got to be somewhere within 30 meters here in a circle somewhere. And then I heard some dumbass cough. And he was at my point, which was about 15 meters to my east. And I was like, there you go, you know? So
we learned if he didn't cough, you'd probably still be out there listening to the Marshall Tucker.
100%.
Okay.
You know, but I remember like being out there in nighttime, out in the middle of this huge, Fort Benning is huge, out in the middle of this huge land nav course, and kind of reflecting and saying, you know what, I'm very sad because I'm not, I missed the birth of my first child, but it's a blessing, and don't take it for granted that you're in here. You worked hard to get back in, and don't take it for granted. This is what you're doing. You have to do to complete it. Think about the end game, focus, and you'll be okay. And it all turned out fine.
Yeah. So I don't know if you saw, Turner. I don't know if you guys saw over there, but Stu, you got your Romeo leadership in here, Master Sergeant Broderick, like you said, and then Master Sergeant Mercer and Staff Sergeant Taylor around here all came in to see us. So
that is awesome.
I'm looking at the comments right now, and the three people you just mentioned, I saw Master Sergeant Mercer in Philadelphia, and had a terrific time with him at the birthday and Veterans Day. Got to meet his wife, and it was great having our father back with the boys. And I told him as much, and I know that it was very meaningful for him to see that.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I bet.
Master Sergeant Broderick, who was literally my original mentor in the Marine Corps, the first guy who was already so accomplished himself, who gave me the confidence that, you and Turner, that you can stand out, really go and get it. Right. And, Staff Sergeant Taylor, I remember we were in Romeo together for a long time. He was our comms chief. He was your direct platoon sergeant, Matt, and, terrific guy, Texas, and, guy, you'll never forget people like that.
Yeah.
You'll be 90 years old and you'll never forget them. And I'm just glad that, I'm just glad that they're all here and we can all keep in touch.
Yeah. So even though Master Sergeant Broderick was your platoon sergeant in 2008, I want you guys to know that I was his favorite as an 06.
Who?
I just want you to know that.
Oh, you're talking about Broderick?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, dude, it was fun. Bro.
Yes. So I'm just saying.
That's if he wants to chime in.
He's probably not even. Is he even still here?
Yeah, I actually think that he and I one time had a conversation about how he had faith in you, but
absolutely.
I'm obviously bullshitting. But,
I'll never forget when I got meritoriously promoted to Lance Corporal in Afghanistan. He comes running. Humvee comes rolling up, slams on the brakes, dust flying everywhere, and he gets out and he goes, "There you go, Turner. You did it now." He's like, "Position of attention."
Yeah.
And whips out a card, and it was the military. It was your rights. It was basically
it was your rights for preparation for UCMJ.
Yeah, it was basically the military Miranda rights. And he goes, "You know what this is?" He's like, "Position of attention." I was like, "That's," and he's just like, "Position of attention." And I went to attention, and he said, "Right, talk to me before and tell me what you did." And I'm like, whoa, like, what are you talking about? And then, he's like, "Well, I guess I had to tell you." He's like, "You've been meritoriously promoted."
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I was haven't ever gotten back for that one.
Yeah.
He just said, all you guys in store are my favorites. Well, listen, staff sergeant, you're always going to be a staff sergeant, just like Gunny Mercer's always going to be Gunny. We appreciate you tuning in tonight, and
very much so. We miss you too.
Yeah, we miss everybody, man. I wish we could. This is why we wanted to do a weekly show. We talked about it. Everyone in my circle, in my media circle, is like, "Well, you sure you want to do weekly?" Absolutely. I don't care if we have nothing to talk about. We have no one to sit down and have a conversation with. The fact is that we've had 20 plus people in here tonight running their mouths and catching back up, and it's great. So I kind of want to, before we kind of open up the floor to more questions, I kind of want to get one more thing out there. And I wanna ask if you could, now that you see our audience who's watching, we've got a lot of motivators in here that we've looked up to, you look up to them, vice versa. Everything. Is there anything that you give as we get close to signing out, that if somebody's at the brink of wanting to do something that means something to them, and they're kind of, just needing that extra push, kind of like taking that leap of faith, is there anything that you could leave them right now on the civilian side of things that would give them some hope?
Well, I think that a lot of people, in particular veterans, struggle when they get out. And I know some of the guests in past episodes have talked about that. When they get out, they feel very, unfulfilled, and they will find themselves becoming stagnant accidentally, because they miss the camaraderie. They miss going through something together. They miss that purpose. They're kind of lacking it. And as a result, like I said, they go stagnant. And what I would tell them is, you have already done what it is that you want to do, in the sense of you have taken a risk. You've taken that leap of faith. When you signed up for the Marine Corps, the Army, whatever, you did something that the rest of the nation overwhelmingly is not going to do.
Right.
And you took an enormous risk, and it paid off in the end. And if you are living in Illinois and you say, you know what, I got this, I see these jobs down in Texas, but man, I'd really have to uproot my life completely. And I just don't see that being in the question. Well, why? You've done it already. You uprooted your life once before. Sure, there's different factors, families, kids, finances. But the only way that you're going to get to where you want to go, is to take that risk.
Absolutely.
And again, you've already done it before. You have the tools for it. And I think too many people get bogged down because they get in that mindset of, I'm kind of stuck in my situation. You're never stuck. I had to completely, I was living in New Jersey. Like I said, my wife was pregnant. What did I do? I worked my ass off and went down to southwestern Georgia for 6 months. And the end game was a good one. And I would tell people that if that's something that you're desiring to do, don't be afraid to change location, change coasts, make a complete lifestyle change, and go get it. Because awesome. Nothing that's worth it is going to just land in your lap.
No.
And that's cool.
And I think that applies for everyone, right? I think that's like the great thing about your message, Stu, is even when for those of us who have gotten out and anywhere, any spot you're at in your life, you get stagnant sometimes. And for some reason, we're so scared of making changes, and that's the big thing. I love what you said. Why? Why not do it?
Listen, man, we're here for a short period of time on this earth. I don't see any reason. There should be no limitations. I think people should be willing to take that risk. And if you see something that you want, there is nothing that's going to hold you back but yourself. You will have to go outside of your comfort zone. But again, especially for the veterans listening, you have already done that. Right. Okay. There is no reason to get stagnant. You've already done that. And it proved, its self-worth, that it was a good move. Yeah. So why not do it again? You know, and that it worked. It worked for me. It worked great for me.
And I think I can speak for both of you and me, Matt. Kind of, we've been well, we've already been over this 10 years for me and Matt.
Mm-hmm.
You're working your way up, but along with going and doing what you want to do, it doesn't have to be the military. I struggled with that and I did this morning. I had a fit of rage where I snapped right back into that life, and then for the next half day, I was like, I meant emotionally, I was there, right? But I guess I'm okay now with, like, it doesn't have to be the military, and I know a lot of our guys out there are kind of in that stuck and don't really know what direction to go. Dude, lace up your fucking boots and do it, right? If you like shoveling fucking snow, or you like shoveling, grab a goddamn shovel and go knock on doors. Go, we live in the land of opportunity, right? Like, and not to go off on a crazy tangent, but you can literally do anything you want. This is the easiest country to go down there, create a DBA, and go out and get yours. I could go tomorrow to the clerk's office and get my shit and go out there and start making money. And I say that because if you have a dream, go out and get it. This is the land of opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in order to, and like you said, it is not specific to military people. You know, if you are living in Arizona, you see that opportunity, and take the chance, roll the dice, take the chance. Because remember what I said in the beginning, I would have sat there for the rest of my life and said, oh man, what if? And I was not going to do that. I was just not going to be that guy.
And you're not going to see the end game every time, right?
Exactly.
Like, you're not going to see. You're gonna want to see it, but you're not going to see it clearly and know all the details.
Right.
You have to take a leap of faith.
And there was serious, like I said, hiccups in terms of the parade deck. The left wing movements. But then I saw that I wasn't alone doing it. Going back to my buddy Chris Lyons. In the end, I was just focused on the end game, and I got there, and it was very much worth the risk.
Yeah. Me and Turner have had tons of conversations. We can talk about veterans, trying to find the purpose. And, I told Turner 100 times that for what's helped with me is embracing my experience in the Marine Corps for what it was, and loving that and appreciating that time. Right. The warriors that I met, the friendships that I made, the things that I did. I mean, Christ, my first 4 years, I had already served in a combat zone and climbed Mount Fuji. You know what I mean? So, when I talk to him, like me and Turner talk about it, it's just embracing those experiences. And then on top of that, using that, in our everyday life, there's valuable.
Well, it's hard. It's hard out here too. And I would imagine Rich had found a level of it, being 8 years out. Dude, it's so hard to try to, like, refer back to the training that you already know. Now, one thing I would love to see, maybe in our journey here at Disarray in 1775, when we impact the transition side of things, I wish they would give us more resources in that avenue. I think that would be really, really cool. That's where it starts.
Well, Stu, I want to tell you, just from me, man, I'm so impressed, not just with you, but with your whole family through this experience, man. You kicked ass, all of you.
I think if there was a book written about how to, we've said it a million, of faith, or taking that risk and literally uprooting everything that you know and aware of and going back into a shitstorm that you already knew a good amount of, dude, hands down, dude, flawless. And I think it has to be commended for sure, dude.
Well, you don't do it alone, though. That's most of the time, I think, especially with the guys we serve with, you always have to look at your tribe, and there are people who will help you get there. There are people who have already helped you get to where you're at, and who will make a big impact on you. And in the end, it comes down to just not giving in. One of my biggest influences was my grandfather. He was a World War veteran, and he was actually there the day that we deployed.
Yep.
Stayed up the whole time. You know, we got on the bus at 1, 2 in the morning.
Stood up and hugged.
Yeah, he met Turner, and you know, he was an enormous influence on me and my drive, because he was a man who was the son of immigrants from Poland and grew up during the Depression. You know, very, very poor. But if you knew anything about him, he was as patriotic as they came. I mean, he was American. And he didn't mind telling you about it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And, you know, he kind of set that tone of don't let anything, you know, hold you back. Stay motivated, go and get it. And I think that fortunately I had somebody tell me that. And that's what I would love to tell anybody is no matter what your circumstances are, stay focused on the goal and just go get it. Take that risk, you know, take that risk.
Yeah. Well, I think we got. I'm trying to think. I think we got all the questions. We had a couple comments. A lot of people thanking you for your continued service, and like you said, that extends to your family, right?
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm just looking at some of the comments too. Listen, guys, thank you so much. You know, one of the greatest things about doing this live and being on YouTube or wherever you're chiming in from is the comments. I never thought of this, Matt, when we were talking about it. And when we had Major Callahan on and he said, he's like, dude, I just love the fact there's so much banter going back and forth. Yeah. I just thank you very much for tuning in this week. We had a great turnout, and we want to thank you, Rich. I know you're on leave and you're a busy man and you're about to fly out west, but you always have a spot here on Disarranged. Anytime, we'd love to get you out there too. Us three on all separate locations to, you know, see what we can drum up for conversation. But always have a spot here on Disarranged, 1775, brother.
Well, I appreciate it, and I tell you, the experience for me was probably the most enjoyable. What's interesting is seeing the comments on the side. Every single person who's commenting on here, when I see the name pop up, you know, I think of multiple very pleasant memories that I've had with them and impacts that they've had on my life, you know, and where I am today. I wouldn't be in the position I'm in today if it was not for the molding that these people, you know, the impact they had on me and how they helped create who I am today. And, you know, it was very worth it to come on and see that, talk to them. And it's just nice to see. So the pleasure was mine.
Yeah. We love you, Stu, man, and continued success and keep whooping it on, man. And I appreciate your continued service, man.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. Like, I know we joke about that all the time, especially.
No, it's
this awesome. Is genuine, dude. We really appreciate it. And it was great to hear about the character of the Warriors nowadays, still continuing the hard fight and training and loving our country. I think one of the coolest things that you brought up your grandfather was the flag story. He said everything's going to be all right as long as we have those colors, and he pointed at the flag, and I think that holds true. Right?
Absolutely.
I think it does.
Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. My name's Andrew. This is Richard. And that is Matthew Garner. Thank you very much for tuning in to episode 9, Disarranged 1775. Listen, I'm going to keep asking. We're on the grind. All right. I need everybody on here. There's 22 of you. Okay. Let's double that. Go out, each of you, grab 2 people, have them come over, tell them we're here to help. Disarranged 1775. Follow us on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook. What are we on? TikTok, LinkedIn, everything. I'll give you my DM us on here. I'll give you my number and I'll tell you what else we're on. But we need the support. We're on the grind to 1,000. But thanks again. We'll see everybody next week for a great episode. And until then, keep it classy, everybody.
Stay safe. Love you guys.
Love you guys.